roast. GBP roast on your Google business profile. It's about to go down. We roasting and reacting. We ain't come to play. 20 years in SEO. JP, Lambo, and Dre. Bringing facts and guests. Oh yeah, we bring the dopeness. Welcome to the show. Hope your profile don't get roasted.
All right, a little late on the smoke here. Welcome everyone. Happy Hump Day.
Woo!
Welcome to another episode of the GBP Roast Show.
Oh!
It's hot.
And
Bring
JP's
it in
hot.
the
He doesn't want to
dopeness.
wear a sweater.
It's hot.
Oh man. All right, so I see a nice little blur going on. You got that Boca going on there.
I don't know why I don't have Heather Locklear posters up or nothing like that back there, or Farrah Fawcett. I don't know why it's blurred out. Obviously, I pressed the wrong button again.
But you have a picture of me back there. That's all that matters.
Yeah, you're on that side over there.
Oh.
All right. So let's get right into it. I didn't see, welcome everyone. Again, we didn't have any questions that came in throughout the week, but we did get a submission for a detailing company. Did you guys see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Take a look
right.
at it.
Let's get right into it. Let's get into the very first reaction video. Check that out.
Yes.
Changing one simple link. Go to Google and pull up your local listing. All of these little buttons here send signals to Google, which when they're used will improve your local SEO. So what we're going to do is go to the share button and then copy this URL. Now go to any social profile that you have and we're going to substitute the link here. Now you can redirect any traffic from your website to your local listing, which is going to send positive signals to Google to increase your rankings.
It's not.
All right.
We should
so
all
we did-
talk slowly like this. Have the right voice to talk, because that'll send positive signals to the idiots who listen to that information.
So you guys don't send backlinks to your Google Business Profile link?
Nope.
Oh, you don't?
No, a lot of
Oh.
times those are dynamic too, so sometimes they'll change. So
Okay.
that's the last thing I'm going to add, because you never know when you're going to be adding different links to different sources, and those dynamically change pretty often. So you're not going to get the same shortener every time.
Okay. How about
Also, too, a lot of those sending links, you're not going to get much juice anyways, because those are a 302. So you're not passing anything. Doing stuff back in the day when it was before the CID became a hex version, sending links to the CID was really, really good. You could share the CID. Back then it was, I don't know if it was, Google Places was also back then, but I think it was Google Plus for business. So you could just share your social profile and that would be enough too. But we don't typically do anything with link building to maps anymore. I mean, we might add like the long URL, but that's about the last place I would use it for.
An important tidbit too is if you get disabled, sometimes suspended, your CID will actually completely change.
Yeah.
So whatever you did in the past is now poof gone. So you need to keep track of that and double check. I know it definitely happens when a GBP becomes disabled. Now that's obviously the more serious offense, and these aren't colored black, but
No, they're
it
blue.
happens. Yes.
All right. So no backlinks to the GP. That's the first. I've always thought we were supposed to build backlinks there. But how about this? I was thinking about this. When I do, and it makes sense. I mean, this may be a hack. I don't know. But, when you get driving directions and then you send it to your phone, there's a link there, right? And I think that's a real use. That's a real use case where you would want to click that link to get the driving directions. I mean,
Yeah, and all it does is open up the longer version of it anyways. Driving directions are definitely a great signal for that. But just clicking the link isn't necessarily going to be some big magical thing.
Yeah,
It's the action
true
behind it.
Signal
It's the action
of the
behind it.
user who clicks it, connects into that cell tower, and then goes there. That's where the money's at.
Yep.
all right, fine.
Sorry to disappoint everybody, but
All right. Reaction
Trust
video
me,
number
we used to
two.
do it a lot. I mean,
Okay.
I'm
so
sure
it's not-
I'm sure this guy right here has at least posted and talked about it a few times in the last few years, but we don't do it anymore.
All right. All right. Okay, so people used to do it.
Yeah.
That's all right. Love it. Video number
So I
2.
tell people schema is like is speaking Google's language directly. So for example,
Is
if
it?
I spoke Spanish and somebody else, or if I spoke English and somebody else spoke Spanish, we would need a translator. And things often get lost in translation, nuances, colloquialisms, stuff like that. But if you have your schema on here, it's like you're both speaking Spanish and you get all the nuances of
both
what
are
you're talking
speaking
about, all the
Spanish.
colloquialisms, and that greatly helps Google to understand what your page is about. And if you don't have that, then you have to rely on a translator. And if the
guess
translator
what?
only
Google
has
knows
this
how
to
to
go by,
translate
it
your
can't
stuff.
really tell Google what exactly you're doing
No.
and how you can help
Dude,
people.
Dre did this on purpose. Dre, God damn it. This is the reality. That all seems to make sense. Right?
SEO therapist near me.
Right?
SEO therapist.
Yeah, it all seems to make sense. But guess what? Testing and more testing and more testing shows Google's ignoring a lot of that information. It doesn't really work on ranking. And the only thing we talk about in Trident and for our customers is what really moves the needle. It's not schema.
All right. Well, to take this a little further than that, I know JP, you shared a new type of markup that I don't think you shared it here, but you may have touched upon it. But
Yeah, I can show it a little bit today.
okay, you showed it today in Tech Talk. Okay, cool. So you guys, if there's also another type of schema, it's somewhat like it's a markup, and it's just using identifiers, which JP will share later on. But before we get going, and for any questions that are coming out, we're gonna address questions towards the end at the end to keep things flowing here. All right, so we'll get back to them. Okay, reaction number 3.
This one mistake is the reason why your local website is not ranking on the first page of Google. Now, whenever we audit a website, we notice service pages tend to be pretty thin on content. And that is the main reason why a website fails to rank on top. Now, let me tell you, this level of detail is absolutely key. If we had just a header and a small paragraph like you see on a lot of sites, Google just wouldn't rank the page well at all. A solid rule of thumb for local service pages is to aim for at least 750 words. Sometimes you can get away with 500, but 750 is a safer.
Word count. What do you guys think?
No, word count's not a thing.
Yeah, I mean, more words is always better. And if he was referencing a homepage, is that right? Or the
Service pages.
Service page.
Yeah, you need as many words as you need, right?
Yeah, as many words as you need to explain what you're talking about.
Yeah,
really.
I did a video a couple weeks ago about how many headings do I need on a page, right?
Okay.
And there's an SEO joke, which is, well, how long is a piece of string, right? The piece of string is as long as you need it to be. And that is the point, which is, if you have a short question, short information, great. You don't need a ton, but it's a service page. Therefore, there's probably easily going to be 4 minimum FAQs on there. You want to have questions and answers. And I would say most definitely my service pages probably have a minimum of 5 other H2s. And if each paragraph might be 50 words, but that's the primary content of the page, which is up high. It's okay to duplicate all the other additional information, right? Such as, do you have reviews listed? Do you have all of your other authority and expertise listed? There's tons of other words in that word count.
Got it. So you're talking about that's like even including stuff that's modular, like even though it's repeated, that's also part of not necessarily just like
would count on the context. But kind of goes back to CRO, which is people will heavily scroll down a page, and if they get to the bottom or they didn't see what they wanted, what are they going to do? Are they going to snoop around? Or are they going to be like, this doesn't feel right, and they might bounce? So you need as much information as you need.
So,
I don't know
and
how
that's
much
and
that
that's
is.
another thing too. It just kind of depends on what it is too, because if you take something a query like online games, I know this isn't necessarily services per se, but the query online games, most of the sites on there hardly have any words related to online games, but it's kind of the intent of what people are searching for. They know that, hey, there's going to be a source of online games on there. Even then too, a lot of a lot of those big sites don't even have schema on there because Google kind of knows what the general idea of what's behind there and what the general site is talking about. So this whole notion that you need to do this or need to do that for Google to disambiguate or to, you know, really understand what your site is about, you just don't need that. And there isn't necessarily, you know, I need to have 1,500 words for Google to understand what my page is. It's not the case. I sold a site about 3 years ago. I was doing about 1.5 million traffic a month. And most of the queries that were ranking were all question and answer type of queries. So it was like how to find the best socks to wear when hiking, and it would literally the answer would be a few sentences, and it was literally like hundreds of thousands of questions and answers like that, and that was the whole site.
The whole site was just like an H1 with the question and answer.
Yep, and then just a bar with just answering the query.
So
there are certain circumstances where you, as long as you can be very direct, that's kind of the whole point of like which the snippets that you see on the top, or you don't really see them as much as we used to, but snippets were basically being able to answer a query as fast as possible on the page. So you don't have to have, and that didn't mean that you had to have 1,500 words or 750 words. If you could answer it very, very concisely, you know, word count wasn't necessarily a thing. So, you know, like he said, if it takes you 750 words to talk about something, then do that. But don't be like, oh my God, I need to add 200 more words because Google's not going to know who I am. It's not the case.
Yeah, so you said your general rule of thumb, Keith, is 5 H2s, 50 words each, 250 body content, right? 300 plus whatever you have going on.
I could probably, you know, the nice thing is, you know, we publish pages live, right? And that's another nice thing in Trident too, is things we talk about and customers we show ranking, like this is live sites. So we can pull and find things. I never really ever think about it, right? What I always really try to focus on really are the headings and those entities and related secondary keywords. Like, do I have to possibly cover the topic good enough that it's thorough? And I'm not talking like an in-depth article or a blog, right? It is a service page. So, you know, yes, there is just a few things you probably do need to have and have supporting information, but man, the worst thing to do would be to overload with words.
Got it. Love it. All right, let's get on to our next segment with our Tech Talk today.
Yeah, we're going to apply some GMBs right now. How we doing?
Doing, baby.
Oh, you know, Tech Stack Talk.
All right,
we need to invent the drive-by QR code scanner, like you just scan and like
I'm gonna
automatically
get a QR gun.
Yeah, QR gun.
What's
Takes a picture, automatically knows the address, knows the business. Bam, you're verified.
A QR gun. What's that about? I didn't hear about that.
No.
Is that a tech? Is that actually?
Oh,
It's a thing that they do have them, but it'll scan. It has like a certain amount of feet that you can scan it.
And then what does it do?
You can use it to publish. You can use it to just there's a lot of things you can do with it. Back in the day, they actually even for related to the local, they actually used to have a trusted verifier program, and all you had to do was just scan a QR code on your screen, and it would instantly verify because they had a certain app on your Android phone. You could just scan it and it would automatically verify. It was a really cool program, but unfortunately, some of the black hat guys like myself abused it. Had like 30 accounts. We did several thousands of listings, and then within probably a couple months, it got shut down. So,
oh man!
But actually, the reason why I got shut down, interesting enough, wasn't necessarily because of that. It was because a couple of people were interviewed by big news people and talking about like spam on doing like creating spam listings, and it hit nationwide news, and a lot of these verification programs got shut down.
Interesting. What's the thing? If that was a while ago, you know, when they say like what happens in Google, like,
that'll never come back.
Oh, all right, never mind. Party pooper.
They've had like 15 different methods that I've come up with over the years, and they've all gotten shut down. Some of them kind of return a little bit, but most of them don't come back. Kind of relating back to the service counter. I mean, I just did a quick search for a plumber one at This is an example that I use pretty frequently. This only has 479 words, and they're ranking like #1. So just keep that in mind. Don't necessarily have to be word count.
Got it.
I can talk about, so today I want to go over technical SEO. And when I think of technical SEO, I'm not talking about organizing your website, which is another name that people like to use, silos. It's not putting schema markup. It's not doing any of that stuff. It's really what makes your website be seen on a technical and on a server level. So this is the main things that I look at. Things like HTTP status codes, which is going to be anything that you see that's like a 200 error, which basically means that your page is live. If there are any types of redirects, 301 is going to be a permanent redirect, 302 is going to be a temporary redirect, and also like a 307. If there's any 404 errors, 410s, 500. So that's when I think of HTTP status codes, those are kind of the main ones that we look at. Another big thing too is uptime. Basically what that means is it'll let you know of any latency that's happening with your overall website. So if you do have downtime, if you are getting different types of status codes, having an uptime monitoring tool is very helpful to kind of take a look at different spikes throughout the day. Maybe you're getting a lot of traffic on certain times. Maybe you're getting server, overload. You're not going to see this a lot with a lot of local businesses unless they also offer e-commerce. This happens to be a lot for kind of big, more national companies, but it is a good idea to pay attention to this stuff. Core Web Vitals, definitely one of the most important things is, what I look at is total rendered time. So basically Googlebot stays on your site for about 5 to 6 seconds and then they leave. So you want to make sure that you kind of stay within that time period. Otherwise you get a lot of problems with crawling, indexation, and things like that. We actually had a client coming in a couple weeks ago. It was they're like a bark business, or they sold like landscaping supplies. And it turns out that they're, for some reason, he had set the entire website to no index. And by that time, Google had come in and tried to crawl about 3 or 4 times. But by looking at that too, you're able to see a pattern in Search Console. So you're able to see, what attempts that Googlebot came in to crawl your site and see, which pages are indexed or live and things like that. Nice. So it's a good idea to become familiar with Search Console. We could spend an entire episode talking about Search Console, but you want to pay attention to kind of what the overall status is happening when it comes to indexation. We always look at, different issues that are having, if we look at why pages are indexing, it could be something. Usually it's not because Google just hates your site. 9 out of 10 times, it's usually because there's something technically that's happening to your server, to the site itself, the rendering. So that's something you really want to pay attention to. Robots text isn't necessarily a big thing anymore. Don't rely on robots text to not allow for different bots and crawlers to crawl those pages. It's no longer a reliable source. It's still, people still like to use it, but if you truly want to prevent any bots from crawling those pages, you should be doing it on a server level. If you're using an Apache server, it should be htaccess. You can use a plugin if you're using WordPress, but it's better to do it at the server level. And then Nginx, if you're using that type of server, then you can actually do that in the Nginx file editor. LLMs, X-Text, we talked about this a little bit on Dre's show. The SEO video show. I was actually a guest on his show last Friday. I would recommend going back and watching that episode. I talked about LLMs, text files. Server info, it's a good idea to kind of take a look at what's overall happening. You want to make sure that you have any security measures in place to help things like cross-site scripting and things like that. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you do have any headers in place to help with some of those things that where people try to find vulnerabilities in your website. This is an extremely important one. We covered this on a couple of episodes ago. That was I think it was a construction business that were using WordPress, and they were using Elementor. Yeah. Elementor, for those of you who don't know, it's a WordPress website builder, and it's very heavy on JavaScript. So a lot of times when you're using Elementor, you'll have a lot more slower time, load speed times, because it is heavy JavaScript. So the less client-side rendering you have, the better. So basically what that means, if you have server side, what it does is it loads the content, the page at the server level, and then it serves it to the browser. Whereas client side, it waits on, you know, the user on this end to fully load on their computer. And these types of things do affect on whether Google's crawling, indexing your pages. So it's definitely something you want to pay attention to. Going back to some of the markup, this is something that I've been testing quite a bit for probably about 2 or 3 months now. This first came about, I got this idea actually from SEO Fight Club from Ted Kabitis. They were actually doing some different searches for types of hammers on Google. And I took that and twisted it into my own way to basically, instead of what people typically use with schema markup, is they'll mark up usually the header of the page to kind of give these little summaries, little tidbits of links and things like that to tell Google, hey, this is what my page is about. Well, I'm taking this a step further, and rather than putting those things directly into the header, I'm actually marking up by the actual content, you know, sentence by sentence, word by word. And here's an example of what that would look like. So if we have this, we're talking about types of hammers. These different classes and data attributes, entity ID numbers, these are actually attributes that Google uses within their actual Google search. So if you go to Google search, and let's say I go to types of hammers.
Hammer time.
And I'll just grab this one. We'll go ahead and inspect this. Actually, let me zoom out a little bit.
Can you make it bigger?
Can you guys see that? Is that better?
Need the hammer bigger.
Yep.
So this is the actual, what they're pulling this is from the knowledge panel, so, or their knowledge graph. So they're actually, this entity ID identifier basically, which is what identifies this ball peen hammer. So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking what Google's using from their actual knowledge panel API and directly putting that directly into my pages. This isn't necessarily something that I would probably do on a local business, because it's not going to make a huge difference. But if you do have a local business and you're heavily into like you have an e-commerce store as well, people can buy products from your store online. This would be a situation where you may want to mark up something. Just the only problem with something like this is there isn't really any like automated way to do this. A lot of this you have to do manually by hand. As far as my knowledge goes, I haven't been able to find anything where Google has an API data available where you can actually pull the full like entity database that has the entity ID number and the entity name. They do have, a lot of times you'll see, if we look at one of the roasts we're going to be doing today, they'll have a knowledge graph ID number. So this is essentially what that is. This is called a machine readable entity ID. It's basically just telling their Google entity database that, hey, this is a local business and this is what the business actually is. Every business is going to have this type of number. Every entity that's within Google's database is going to have an ID number. So that's essentially what that is. There's also different ways to mark this up. You can do it directly into as an item prop, which item prop is kind of a way to use a markup language to mark up. And the good thing about it is you can actually mark up specifically where you want it to show within the actual page. So if you want to identify a certain element, a certain piece of information directly on the page, then in this case, you would actually insert, this code, the data information directly into that sentence where it's mentioned. Again, It can be very time consuming. However, if you're going to be doing something like this, in my opinion, this is the proper way to actually get it done. So,
ooh, yeah.
Nice.
And then really we have some different tools that I've made over the last couple of months. I showed this one also on Dre's show. It's just an SEO data extractor. Basically what this is you can actually pull meta information directly from your sitemap. You can actually do it individually directly on the URL. And so it'll pull the URL, the page title, meta description, H1, H2s, and things like that. As a business owner, you don't necessarily need to know what a lot of this means. However, it is a good idea for you to check certain elements on your page to kind of understand what Google's looking at when they're reading your titles, when they're reading your H1s, which basically all this means is just a hierarchy of a piece of page content. So just think of your H1 and you have your title for, your main piece of content. Kind of like in grade school when you had a table of contents before you write an essay, you kind of have your header, like your new numerical 1, 2, ABC, things like that.
Yep.
So it's just a way to keep things organized in a more hierarchical structure. And that's all I got for today for Tech Talk.
Oh,
Nice. And these tools are free, correct?
They are, yep.
And so we will share the link at the end, or JP, just whenever you get a chance, put it into the chat and we can get you guys that link for you guys to check out. So let's get on to our next segment here.
la 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 marker. Lambo's World. La 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 la. Lambo's World. Lambo likes conversions and SEO too. That's Lambo's World. I really should maybe consider changing the saying
ringer?
something else different. Or,
The dingle?
The dingle.
Yeah, we'll work on that part. So it doesn't matter, does it? No, let's go. Let's move over. I always do the wrong thing. So there we go. Do. Lambo's World, rock and roll. So this is kind of fun. I got a little education 3 years ago on, I posted something on Facebook, right? And I'm like, what do you think the reaction was from people when they saw something like this? If you didn't see any other text,
How big's your truck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, were people crying about Biden and Trump and inflation and the price of gas? Yes. Well, was that my point? No. My point was, I'm a weirdo. I like to push things to extremes. So if you say, hey, we go live in 5 minutes, I'm going to be there at 4:59. Okay. So I have a 19-gallon tank and I almost ran out of gas again. Okay. I'm so fucked up. I'll even save receipts. Okay. And keep them in my glove box of how much gas I put into my car. So I was boasting how I almost ran out of gas and put 18.859 in. But no, people are stupid, right? They're flipping out and crazy. But this is the other reality. It's not so much about people are stupid. It's really they're just ignorant because they didn't read the fine line. My messaging was off. So this was the actual post. I basically said, hey, I've never put so much gas in, but a lot of people, of course, off of the old social media world, they just went screaming in the other direction. So today in Lambo's World, you've seen this. We talked a lot about it, which is you're going to read this first, right? The big, huge headline, then the secondary headline, and then something else, a little bit of color. You read the third headline. The reality is the most important message really needs to be first and clear and concise, right? And with that, you only have seconds for someone to feel ease at your page. And your audience, they're going to quickly decide whether they want to explore, whether they want to bounce. And then if they leave, they're going to be gone for good. So you really don't want to focus so much on the clever. You really want to try to capture that attention, but be different. And but if you are too different, you're going to muddy up that message like I screwed up, boasting about how crazy I am going to, with just fumes in my gas tank. Don't make me think, right? Just get to the point. You need to have one offer and one message and make sure it's clear, it's easy to understand, and that there's no doubt in my mind. Make sure that all your content and that wording is consistent. Just have the one main offer and one main message. One main message? A message. which is, what can I do here? How do I do it? And what is the benefit do I get, right? It's what, how, why. Make sure that that's really clear and really focused in your messaging. You just don't want people to get lost on the page, especially like a service page, which we talked about earlier. That's pretty much it on Lambo's World today. I did want to, if you have questions for Dre, for me, or Jordan, please just put them down in the comments below. We will address every question, whether it's an older show, a new show, it doesn't matter. And of course, give us a like and subscribe. We'd love to grow and help more small businesses out there.
All right, so here we go. We actually have a well, that was a little really long. Let me put that there. Let's go into
sorry.
there we go. All right. So let's get into our next segment. And we have a new intro here. Check this out.
Hey, need my goggles.
Oh yeah. So this is for Jackson C. Thank you for emailing us. This is his GBP here. He wants us to check out again. So like this, what Lambo mentioned, just email us your GBP. We'll roast it live and give you some pointers. So we want to go ahead and pull that up.
Yeah. You want to pull up, Keith?
Mobile car detailing, Plymouth, Mass. If we go straight over to the GBP, car detailing service, I'm not certain if there's anything else on the car wash side on the detailing. I'm assuming we're okay there. I always love to dive in a little bit deeper into the reviews. So this was interesting too, because the first thing I saw here, let me just zoom in. It said brand, and I'm like, brand, like brand mentioned? Oh, no, they mean brand new. It looked brand new, which is very similar to the other one here, which was the showroom. And I'm thinking, oh, like a car dealer, he goes to a car dealership. No, it was like showroom new, out of that showroom, like brand new. So that's good. This is all the information. It's nice to see how people are talking about your brand. Hair, again, I got a little lost, sorry, got this crazy mind. Dog hair, right? Cat hair, hair in the carpet cleaning. So that's good. It's nice to see that there's clear communication. That's important. And obviously focusing on the wash. It's great to see too in these reviews that the actual consumers themselves are leaving photos. That's an awesome point. You really want to stress that as a small business. If we go take a look at on the homepage side, just the raw data here on looking at the title, mobile car detailing, Plymouth, Mass, that's fine. You don't always have to repeat your brand, because it is part of your name, just an FYI. So if you can think of like a secondary keyword, a secondary? God, I am really having some problems with my mouth today. Secondary keyword you could put in here. You could even look at a second city possibly, maybe something related to wash possible, or auto or truck, right? Maybe you focus on motorcycles. But here was a little bit of trouble. Now, when I say trouble, let's count together. Let's use the highlighter. How many times is the word car detailing coming up in the H1? There's 3. Oh, wait. Oh, there's 4. 4 times that the dev, this has been set up with an H1 stating car detailing. I think you fucking do car detailing, okay? That message is very clear.
Do they?
No, I don't know. We don't need to do that.
They have 4 H1s. Is that Okay.
I wouldn't normally would do that. Typically, a general rule is extremely competitive SERPs, law, HVAC, plumbing, auto repair, you just really have to look from a professional point of view and competitiveness. You might be a high cost per click, or there might be a lot of people that do it and the search volume is low. You really don't need to see a lot of this, H1s. Typically what you would do is you always want to move these, if you can, to an H2, or try to think of a different way. Just say car washing, right? That's fine. Car washing service. Also maybe think automobile, truck, motorcycle. I do like that we mentioned some brands here, but again, this is really super specific. And the only thing I can assume, remember, we're just looking at the raw headlines. I'm assuming that maybe we have some photos of some very specific cars down below. Yeah, we have this car portfolio. You're kind of sending the wrong message. If I looked at this, and if I just said to anyone on the street, hey, what do you think they do? They'll probably say they probably sell cars, right?
Yep.
So you don't want to have that mixed message. It is a good thing that you mention brands, Porsche, Corvette, but don't get overly specific with the exact models. Anyways, that's a question.
So are they only detailing like high-end cars though?
Well, I don't know. If we look at headlines, the headlines don't necessarily state that. What will we be looking at? We might be certainly looking for the word
luxury. Oh, there it goes.
Luxury.
Because I drive a Honda, like an SUV. It's just an EV vehicle, kind of basic base model. I have a dog, and I want like detailing. When I'm looking at this site, I'm thinking, oh well, shit, I don't own a Porsche, so they probably can't help me.
Right. You might exclude the average person. What is interesting though, do you remember what vehicle type was most mentioned in the review? SUV. And that is the most common vehicle that's out there is an SUV. So yeah, you would be better off maybe focusing on Honda, Toyota, and Nissan brands that are widely distributed, just because that is your customer. Now, you might have a high-end service, and therefore you want to only focus on that. That's fine. But like I type in the word leather, this is just raw data looking. It's not mentioned. Sometimes you might see like aluminum, like aluminum wheel. That doesn't show up. Obviously, I don't drive a Porsche, so I don't know, what people might be focusing on. They might be thinking about old classic cars. They may even want to think about the engine detail, right? The degreasing, especially like if you want to maybe pre-prep something for a car show.
If you go back to the Google business profile, I noticed something on their plepper. It says it's a service establishment. If it's an old thing, is that?
And that's pretty common as a generic standard. You'll actually see that listed for a lot of service-based businesses. The fine line is they probably don't want to be listed as a car wash, because you don't want people to come to the residence or to the location, right? So there is that fine line of.
And that's not something that you actually code in there. Like you don't add that category. It's more of an internal thing that Google has. It was there when there was Map Maker. So basically, when Google Maps developed, they had different like categories to kind of show like, hey, this is a building, this is a service, that's something that was hard coded in there. You can't edit that.
Yeah, because it says address is hidden, so he's not showing his address. So I'm assuming it's just on mobile only.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's common. One thing I was thinking about here, he does say 35-star reviewed. What if that was in color, right? What that might pop off the page more and be more important. It's nice. He's focusing on, you know, it's just not the outside of the car. It's also the inside.
I think the 5
Looks like
stars.
he has links to some service areas, which is fine.
He only has 864 words though.
Probably be okay. I do like, there's some nice keywords here. We got hand wax. From a CRO point of view, I don't always like to do this centering of items, because if you move this to a mobile, it's probably going to get really kind of funky here. And I stress this a lot. I can't stress it enough, because this is how people are really absorbing and seeing the information. It's great. I love the photos. I'd love to see before, after, right? Show me before, show me after. Show me what I get if I call you, right? But you see how all that's centered on here, and it's hard to read, and it's a smaller font. I can't.
No one's gonna read that either.
Yeah, it's just too much information.
You know, just go back up to the hero. What you mentioned on the stars. I think something that'll pop it out would be putting like a 5-star graphic, right? Or like 5-star transparent ping right there.
Yeah, exactly. That would
Yeah,
certainly would be better.
I'll pop it out. I'll pop out the from the.
What I'm looking for too is, do we even have reviews of people, right? Show me a face and what did they say? It's common, you know, reviews could be towards the bottom, right? When people have to make that decision. So here they are here. So he does repeat that again. Are these photos? Oh, yeah, they're photos. So Google is not fully registering all this text. Work with the dev, get that revamped. You know, the old Lambo rule, I just love to have the smiling face, right? Here she is. She's so happy. She got her Jeep cleaned. I just love the mobile washing, right? That's what you need. Oh, with her dog, that would be awesome, right? That's the cuteness, and that's the feelings that you really want to get in pushing your car detailing to the next level.
Nice.
This is good too. He has this step by step, but just think where a little bit of color and a little bit of graphics can just take this a step further.
Is it a one-page website? Is it like a?
No. Well, he has. We do have a full-on about.
Yeah,
what I expect
there's
here.
Individual service pages too, and
running CB detailing is Jackson. I want to see Jackson. Who is Jackson? Show me your face. Can I trust you? You know, are you young, going to college? Are you, a car enthusiast? Super important is, at the end of the day, people want to do business with people they like. So show me what you do, right? It's good. I'm sure he has a lot. Every unit you wash, you clean and dry, get that on Instagram and on Facebook, because you really just need a lot of referrals, right? It's super common for people just to go onto Facebook and say, hey, does anyone know someone, who can wash cars, or who's great, or they'll come to my house, right? Focus on the benefits, where you just place that call and I'll be to your house and take care of everything.
I'm curious to see what happens in the next month or so when it comes to, there was a reaction that we did. Joy Hawkins came out with something about a month ago in regards to if they had a page that was ranking on page 1 and it was using the same URL as what was on their maps link listing, that it actually wouldn't show. It'd only show one URL. Which is something that Google did when it came to SERPs several years ago. And because, these guys are ranking pretty well for their main terms. On page 1, they're ranking on the top for mobile car detailing in Plymouth. But they're only ranking like number 4 or 5 on maps.
Oh.
And back, this is kind of an example too, when people say, well, I'm ranking on page 1 organically, shouldn't I be ranking on maps? And this is kind of a good example of they are two completely different algorithms. So just because you're ranking number 1 on organically for those terms doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to happen for your listing as well. So I'm curious to see what kind of happens over the next month. If what Joy said was true, this could be an issue where you get to only choose which URL that you want to show. You could have either a higher organic ranking, or you could have ranking in the pack. So
the thing too with what Hawkins talked about was something that they identified late summer. Then they kind of more brought it out in October, but then she didn't really release it till a couple months ago. But then it was sort of wishy-washy, because even some of my data and your data was like, I don't know. There still seem to be subjective as to who they rank and who they don't rank.
Because there's not really a ton of competition for this area, for this particular niche.
No.
So they should be doing much better.
Here's a good example where he has some photos interior. And, as like you're scrolling down the page, you might just scroll right past it. You definitely want to make sure, give me a headline here that says before, after, and then possibly even caption before, after. Because now that I really carefully look at the detail, I'm like, oh, wow, that's impressive. So just like me and my crazy gasoline picture, tell me what to expect and then show me. Because this is important data, and you may even want to seriously consider put some of these really important before afters on the home page. It wasn't until I dug in deeper I found that.
Yeah.
All right. Lovely. We are at time. We did have one question that came in. One question that came in is by Eric. Do map embeds work? Still work. Do map embeds still work?
You'll get a temporary signal, but eventually over time you'll have to keep doing it, because eventually it'll start to kind of trickle back to what it was. It's more a temporary traffic signal. We don't do a lot of embeds with what we do. We just send real traffic over. But if it is something where you're finding that things are fluctuating, it's something you have to stay very consistent at doing.
Got it. All right. Again, if you guys have any questions or want your GBP roasted, send it to gbproast@gmail.com, gbproast@gmail.com. And to find JP and Keith, where can people find you?
Yeah, we're also, you can find us, you can find me on Facebook, also jordanpierce.net if you want to schedule any type of consulting. Keith and I work together a lot too. We have the Trident Rank Method.com if you want to learn more details about what we do, how we do it. We do have a great group of people in there, a little over 110 people in there on a private Discord channel. So yeah, jump in there.
Yep. All right. And Keith, you can find your favorite.
My brand is the Up Hero, and I just exclusively work with small businesses. So I'm happy to take a look. And
uphero.net, right? Uphero.net.
Yeah.
All right. And you can also find me on the SEO video show. You can check me out if you need some also consulting. You can check me out, paulandre.com. If not, we will see you guys next week. Oh, yeah.
Hey, GBP roast, GBP roast. Sorry, you in danger. Right now, I got a flame here. This is GBP roast, GBP roast on your Google business profile. It's about to go down. We roasting and reacting. We ain't come to play. 20 years in SEO. JP, Lambo, and Dre bringing facts and guests. Oh yeah, we bring the dopeness. Welcome to the show. Hope your profile don't get roasted.
All right, let's see. It's stopping. Let's stop. There we go. Gone. Lovely.